this side, but I will begin by saying that I began my foray into reproductive justice as a research subject. It was 1979, and probably many of you were not born yet, or some of you were, of course. I was a teen mom. I gave birth at Howard University Hospital, and in my senior year of high school, 2 months shy of my 18th birthday. So just because of that, I ended up in their database and was designated a teen mom. Long story short, I was recruited into a research study about teen moms, and it was during that time in hearing the questions that were being asked of me to figure out, my story, I realized that they weren't getting my story in the questions they were asking. I was, at that time, planning to attend American University and study business because I figured I'd make, my mark in business to support my daughter. But it was in the ensuing months I decided to defer my enrollment. I stayed home a year. I collected AFDC, which is what TANF used to be called, the welfare program for people with children. It was called Aid to Families with Dependent Children. Its origins were actually with World War II war veterans to provide care for their widows and their children. And by the time I was receiving it, it had become associated with single, unwed, usually women of color. So a lot of stigma attached to that. But I used that year to be home with my daughter and spend that critical first year of life with her. I fell in love with her over the summer and just thought of enrolling in classes in the fall didn't appeal to me. And I decided to take that time. And in that interim period is when I was recruited for the study, and that's when I asked the master's student asking me all these questions, where are you from, what is this about? And this whole idea of research and being researched fascinated me. And I said, I think I could ask better questions to get at why. And what it was about my life circumstances up to that point that had led me to become a mother at that age. Long story short, I enrolled then at Howard University, entered that program that researcher came from, and work study in the same department, was principal investigator of the study, and ended up even coding some of the data in the study that I was a part of. And from there, I went on to my graduate studies at Cornell University. By then I was interested in also how do you intervene in people's lives in meaningful ways. I got my doctorate in human service studies and ended up doing a dissertation on migrant farm workers because my daughter's father had been a former migrant farm worker, or his family had been, and they had settled into the community in Pennsylvania where I grew up. So I had not been aware that Cornell had actually operated a migrant labor camp, and it had been actually a pretty bad one. And they had created a service program when it became more possible that the public might be made more aware of this labor camp they ran. So they closed down the labor camp to avoid bad publicity for the university and created a service program. And I got to meet some of those folks, and they took me to the border of upstate New York to really examine a phenomenon that I knew a lot about personally. My father had also been a migrant chaplain. He was a minister who went into migrant farm labor camps in Pennsylvania. He directed the War and Poverty program also in the community I grew up in the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania. So I was tying, again, my personal experiences with this whole enterprise of research and how we explore questions and social inquiry and what all that meant. I lived in the camp, picked apples to get a sense of what it was like for people to migrate from one part of the country to another to, pick the crops that we all eat, whether they were migrating as unattached people or as families, and the differences in the economy of all that, how people were paid, how they were housed, their protections from things like pesticides, all of that just fascinated me in terms of documenting. So that's kind of my portfolio that evolved from how I came to, I guess, be interested in a couple of things, both reproductive justice that I've kind of alluded to in my own story, but also the intersections of people's lives, which was asked in the previous discussion. Just going to see if we're going to get something going here or not.
Yeah. Would you consider yourself an ethnographer?
I carry a whole bunch of tools in my toolkit. I actually had a cultural anthropologist on my graduate committee, on my doctoral committee. So that is probably my methodological home of sorts. But I also do think in a very applied way, so I guess more applied anthropology suits my taste. I went to 2 schools of human ecology, so they were very interdisciplinary by nature, and that's how I eventually found